This is Shaun Sport in podcast form.
It's always great to have the big Pav on the show today, and I was feeling for Pav. Of course, you can see him on 9 News, which we'll see him tonight, but I was feeling for him because he was calling all the action with Will Schofield on Fox on the weekend, and Fremantle were getting panned. Absolutely caned. Pav, how was it, my friend?
It was hard yards, Shawnee. Yeah, good morning.
I heard they were calling you the thighs with the sad eyes this week.
Oh, well, look, it's one of those things where you just have to be professional and do your job and call it as it is. But it was a tough watch.
Yeah.
So, yes, the sad eyes were out probably after the game. But, gee, what an upset. Like, no one saw that coming on Saturday night.
I did.
It's a bit like... No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Hey, Matthew Pavlich, thighs, Mr. Thighs.
No, mate, this is not
Shaun,
your area of expertise.
we put in footy tips, right?
Yep.
For the Derby. I had the Eagles win, and I was wrong by the margin. I said the Eagles will win by 14 points.
Well done.
He wanted to say 41, but he went 14.
Because we had a Derby decider here where my mum partnered with Jeremy McGovern and Shaun was partnered with Emma O'Driscoll, and mum and Jeremy took it out, and that was the decider. We don't use psychic octopuses or
do you
anything.
have Thursday's Powerball as well for us then?
Of course I do, mate, but I'm keeping that one to myself. Hey, Pav, you said you were working with Scoey, and I was told Shaun he should basically have a word with him as well. I've noticed from looking at his recent photographs and him on TV that he is 2 centimetres away from becoming the liquor baron.
He looks like the liquor baron. Nate said if you see Sco, make sure you mention it to him.
He looks like he's beginning to look like the liquor baron. So you need to tell him.
I'll pass on that feedback. I'm not entirely sure he'll be right with it, but it is all feedback. I just say it's not personal. It's just trying to make you better.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the game.
It's really nice to have a WA team here. Adam Papalia, one of the best callers in our game across the nation, does a wonderful job on Fox, and it's awesome to have also Cass Lachlan back here in Perth as well. So great little team, and Scully was certainly lapping up, but I will get into it about being the liquor baron. That's a good one.
That's sure. Hey, Pav, and Caitlin was doing the game as well, covering it for the West. It was such an interesting start from the Fremantle Dockers. I thought that if you were to dissect the first 20 minutes of the game, Justin would be really over the moon with some of the ball movement, the way they were able to change directions with the ball and kick on the 45. Some of their handballing was outstanding. And then the final piece inside 50 was terrible, right? And we saw that. Yep. But as a whole, they dominated that quarter until the last 5 minutes. Then Reid got involved. Crowd went nuts. He said to all the other West Coast Eagles teammates, just jump on board. I'm going to get us over this last little bit. And off they went to the races.
No, you're spot on, Shawnee. I mean, why talk to me about it when you've just nailed the analysis of the first 20 minutes? You're spot on. Like they had 16 inside 50s Freo within the first 20 minutes of the game for no score, and they actually were turning the ball over in the right area of the ground in terms of their forward half. I think they had 9 or 10 forward half turnovers that all went back inside 50. So West Coast pressured kicks, Freo win the ball back in their forward half. They go back inside 50, the Dockers, and they just don't connect. I think they had 1 point from their 10 forward half intercepts in that first half. And then West Coast finally got a bit of ground position and finally got a bit of stoppage pressure. And, Harley Reid kicks a couple of goals, one on the siren. They got 3 scores from stoppage in that first quarter. Harley Reid hadn't touched the ball for the first 25 minutes, and then he sort of ignited them. So, and then from there, it was all West Coast. So, I think Freo, what their main issue was, they couldn't handle the fact that they couldn't score, and that West Coast went down and sieved them from a couple of inside 50s, and then they dropped the bundle. They just got absolutely smashed around the ball, couldn't win an aerial contest after quarter time, smashed in quarters 2 and 3, and then the game was done, and they sort of pegged the scoreboard back. But it was great from West Coast and poor from Freo, and it was a disaster really, because life's about expectation. Everyone was walking in there, except for Nathan, because he had Nostradamus, as we're going to start calling him.
Thank you.
Everyone thought that it should be Fremantle by how much, but they promised and over-delivered the Eagles, and that's why the narrative will change pretty quickly this week.
Hey, Pav, I watched the Derby, I know.
Lost his remote.
I was sent to mum and dad. I was just at mum and
Netflix
dad's
broken,
house,
was it?
and it was on, and it was. It's the first time, really. I mean, one of the only times that football's actually captured my attention, and I was actually talking about what was happening in the game and various things. But one of the things that I did say to mum and dad was, Harley Reid, look at him. He is having fun. I said, like, he is literally, like, you can tell he is out there, and I could see everyone else seemed to be, this is their job, but yet he had a smile on his face and he was like, woo, and like he was playing down in the park with his mates. Shaun said that at the start of most people's careers, that's what it is like playing AFL until the weight of it. So, Pav, do you remember the last time you had true unbridled fun playing AFL before the weight of being Matthew Pavlich and a Fremantle Docker went onto your shoulders?
Yeah, like early days, it would have been 20 years ago, I reckon. Like 2004. Honestly, it changes quickly, but I think it's a great observation. It really is, because he's a 19-year-old, just turned 19-year-old in his sixth game of AFL footy, and and the beauty about him is that I guess he's been allowed to play with a licence to run forward, create play, do whatever he likes, play to his strengths, and not worry too much about some of the other areas of the game that he's got to get better at, which is the defensive side and some fitness and other things. And he's just playing with joy, and you know what? He's doing it really, really well. So, it'll grind him at some point. The game will become a job and it'll become hard work. But,
good. Because I don't like seeing people happy doing their jobs. Hey, let's talk about his contract sort of thing that's being thrown around at the moment. So let me get this straight. He's signed up for 3 years, but yet we haven't even dug into that 3 years yet. But they're already wanting to extend his contract now. Is that right?
Yeah, so he's good. Yeah, so he signed so when you get drafted as a first-round draft pick, you get a couple of years, and then there's an option, which is effectively open as of today, to sign him up for a further contract and for further terms. So I think West Coast obviously going to move on that. The interesting thing will be what they offer him, because clearly they want to keep him, but you want to also incentivise him and then also surround him with other young stars. So if you say, hey, we're going to pay you, $1 million, $2 million bucks,
which is what's being floated around at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think Lee Matthews even said that last night. You might try to sign him up for $1 million a couple of mil on over which I think you want to incentivise him, and I'm sure if you're his manager, you want to get the upside now, but also make sure he is locked in and comes out of contract before he becomes a free agent, which would be probably at 25 or 26, depending on the numbers. So I think that, look, if you West Coast, sign him up, but also leave a little bit of a
wiggle room
to make sure that he's incentivised, and also the club have room in their cap to bring other good players in, because he's one player, but it's not basketball. Like, one player can't dominate like basketball.
But, I mean, you can see them going for the jugular with this and trying to get that. So my question quickly to you, Shaun, and Caitlin, and you, Pav, your first contract for your professional sport, his looks like a year or so in, he's going to be offered possibly $1 million a year. Shaun, what did you start with?
$14,500.
How old were you?
That was royalty. I hope he gets paid all the money because people are turning up to see him play.
Pav, what were yours? What was yours?
My first contract was $31,000.
Oh, Shaun, money bags. All right, let's go to Caitlin Bassett. Okay, Caitlin Bassett.
I can top that. I was given $50. And I was confused. I didn't know if I had to pay that money to the club or they were going to give it to me.
You didn't know if it was a bill or a paycheck?
Yeah.
Where was that at?
This was here at the Perth Orioles, it was called.
Perth Orioles,
yeah. I got paid $50 and I got 2 free pairs of shoes. It was great. Yeah, it was the highlight of my career. But I was 16. I was just stoked to be a part of the team. I would have paid $50.
If you can never body swap with someone like on Quantum Leap, Harley Reid's the person you want to do with it right now.
Would have thought so too.
Nathan, what was your first contract at Nova?
At Nova, honestly, I was talking to Shaun about it. I think my first year, because when I got offered this job, my agents at the time were like, no, TV's where you got to go. And yet Gretel Crowleen was the only person that gave me the advice of no, radios where you can grow with people and they can, get to know you over years. So I went against my agents. But Nova was only, I think it was around $65,000 to maybe $80,000.
Now you're on 65 million. Wow.
So it's worked out well, Pav.
Yeah.
I'm no mathematician. It's not
I've
bad.
got to go. My helicopter's dirty. I've got to get it a wash. It's parked on the roof.
Hey, Pav, good calling this weekend. Of course, Fremantle have got the big game against the Western Bulldogs. And, Pav, on 9 News tonight?
Yep, of course. Tune in.
Yep, there
We'll
you
see
go.
you then.
That's where we catch the thighs of the eyes. Matthew Pavlich.
See
Thanks,
you, mate.
Pav.
Bye.
Thanks, dudes. Bye-bye.
Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Apart from the footy over the weekend, there was a couple of other sporting events going on. One was the West Coast Fever playing the Lightning yesterday. Nearly 9,000 people turning up to the event there, Caitlin.
Yeah, RAC Arena. Biggest home crowd they've ever had for round one, and
Wow.
it was hard to hear. It was hard to hear in the stadium. Do you know what was hilarious though? Courtney Bruce, so she was the captain of the West Coast Fever. She now plays for the Sunshine Coast Lightning. She took an intercept in the third quarter, and it was like crickets. Like back in the day, it would
People
have been
would've
like
gone
everyone
like
up and
that.
back. Yep, she is no longer.
Well, she's a trader.
Well, you were thinking that... It was,
And you've
if it was
been a
gonna-
trader too.
Yes.
Did you notice that?
I am a trader. Yeah, I felt for her because I'd been in that position. I left Fever after being here for a very long time and went to the Sunshine Coast Lightning. So identical paths basically. But, she came back. Her team, unfortunately, they just did not stand up and perform. West Coast Fever have really put their hand up for contention for premiership this year.
Already.
25-goal win. They won by 19 goals last week. I didn't think they could get any better. Bang.
They looked really sharp in the first game I saw them play.
I want to ask a sports question.
Yes.
Because today's been all about my insights. So when you are, say, a Courtney Bruce fan or you are a fan of... It's not that weird. It is. So when you're a fan of a certain player and then they leave your team, are you to cut all love and ties for that person? Is it a conscious choice, or are you allowed to love them still?
There's always fan favourites, isn't there? And I think we see it in other sports, Ronaldo, Beckham, all these things. When they move teams and go to different places, like teams want them because they know a huge fan base is going to come with them.
Yeah.
So I think in netball there's been a little bit of shift in player movement over the last year. People are becoming more attached to players and less attached to maybe teams.
So you can still have your love for your player
yeah.
if they go to another team, your rival team. Sean, what's your
I,
opinion?
well, you never follow their team. So, I mean, personally, we had, say, someone like Lachie Neale who played for Freo, and I'll always think he's a great guy, regardless.
Yeah.
I don't follow his team, but certainly Lachie Neale for me, for sure. Yeah, so you don't you don't cut all ties. That's for
Okay,
sure.
great.
Yeah.
Moving on to the WSL, which is the World Surf League that took place yesterday. The finals were on, and the day was amazing because the swell finally came in. All those surfers have been having a great time down the southwest, but they've been wanting to compete, but because it's been such beautiful weather, there wasn't the swell coming through. It all took place yesterday, and WA's, or Margaret River boy, Jack Robinson took
Your
out
boyfriend?
mate,
Sean
should have
would
seen
date him. Sean would get rid of Megan and date him in a second.
Oh, blessed.
He was amazing, and leading up to get into the final, he wasn't surfing unbelievably well, and he was against a guy called John Florence, who's won it a couple of times down in Margaret River.
John Florence.
I love
So
double John.
Is it John John?
Yeah, John, that's his name. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Like John John?
Yeah.
Yep.
John Space
Yep.
John. I love it.
Yeah.
Like John, first name, second name John, or John John?
One name.
Like a bonbon.
John.
Like the can, like a
Yes.
Tim Tam. Okay. Just
You
trying to wrap my
workshop
head
that
around
really
it.
quickly. Well done.
There's a lot going on in here.
And it was really interesting because John surfed the heat before in the semi-finals. He had all the moves. No one could surf better. In fact, he got a 10 out of 10. But it was the semi-finals, and all you're up against is, because it's man on man. And Jack just scraped through. But before the final, they interviewed him, and he said, look, I've just been trying to get through, but now we're in the final, ready to rock and roll. And he went berserk. He went berserk, and he won the final pretty comfortably, which was great. But which is great, he's a West Australian. One of the standouts for me was Sally Fitzgibbon, for this reason, who got knocked out in the semi-finals.
She does those shed ads, yes?
How good are those shed ads?
Why is she doing shed out? You asked me that today.
What do they have on her?
Do you know what?
To make her do the shed ads? Because I'm pretty sure that Shed Corporation isn't, it's not paying her like.
Well, you
heaps
don't
of
know.
money.
I was mentioning it. Caitlin had the question.
Is there
for
a
me.
lot of shed money?
I mean, if I was an unknown athlete and I just wanted sponsorship, like 100% I would understand that.
You
But
would
she
sell
is
sheds.
world class.
I know, and
So
she's
it's a
selling
little bit
sheds.
confused. So they must be offering her a shed load of money. Surely.
A shed load of money.
Surely.
No
Shed
one's got more
happens.
sponsors ever in the world of sport. She has got more sponsors than I've seen anyone in any
So
sport.
does Big Shed have that much money? Does it? The corporate world of Big Shed.
There would be a minimum you'd have to pay her. I don't know what that would be.
I
because
suppose
she's
your
got
cheapest
huge-
shed's probably 20,000, isn't it? So they're but how many sheds can you move?
Okay, that'll be a question for tomorrow. But what I say about her is, though, I didn't think... Anyway, she was in the semi-finals. I don't think she particularly surfed that well, but she was on the cusp of getting cut from the whole surf league, right, and going back to the reserves, if you like.
Really? She get jobbed by the shed company?
And in the end, she did. She lost, and it meant that she is back onto the, the reserve circuit, which goes around at the same time. Starts
Really?
next week. When she came in off the jet ski, because the break's 500 metres out, she stood at in the water, and she was just looking out to sea, and she was just shattered, right? Absolutely
Would you have
shattered.
said that she would shed a tear?
She was about to shed a tear. She would have cried and bawled if she had the opportunity to. She took about a minute. They had the cameras on her. She took about a minute and a half to gather herself and just look out to sea, and she would have been distraught. She turned around, smile on her face to all these kids who were just standing there for an autograph. She ended up getting some kids to play paper, scissors, rock to take her jersey, which she gave them to
Oh,
them.
that's
She took
beautiful.
photos with everyone as it took for her to get up to the competition area. It took her about 35 minutes to get back up there, in which case she was back in there probably bawling her eyes out to her dad. But that whole thing, the way she carried
Oh, that's
herself,
heartbreaking.
I tip my hat off. Outstanding. It was the best performance I've seen on the weekend.
Wow, I hope she doesn't shed any of her sponsors.
Ring the bell.
I don't have it now. In the renovation, the bell's got lost. So now we don't have a clue if we've done anything good or not.
Oh, my God.
Thank you. Where's the bell? How about
Okay,
that?
next investigation. Oh, that's it, guys. And I think we're done and dusted, are we?
Yeah, Shaun, no one's done this job better. Tomorrow, another $1,000 up for grabs when we create a new competition around a Taylor Swift song.
Oh, cool.
That's
I
not
love
bad.
them, Nate. Well done.
Natalie may be back. We're going to give her the option when she lands today. If she is too jet lagged, there's no point having a weekends at Bernie's lumped woman in a chair. So unless she can communicate properly and she's in a good mood, we don't want her.
Although, did you see that article about that person who wheeled in the dead?
Stop.
Yeah. Did you see the video? Did you see the video?
Yeah.
She's going, "Oh, uncle, come on, sign it." It's like, well, your uncle's dead.
At the bank, everyone.
Wheeled in a dead uncle. And then like, "Oh, uncle, do you want to go back to hospital?" No, take him to the morgue. He's dead. The hospital cannot help him.
One hell of a comeback. Bigger
But
than
not
Jesus.
just that. Another nephew tried to take his uncle in a couple of years beforehand to get some money out as well. So if you've got a nephew or a niece, watch out.
They're digging you up.
Shaun Sport is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.